Hello, I'm Virginia Delegate Bob Brink from the 48th District in Arlington and McLean, and this is my third video update from the 2013 General Assembly session. As we move toward the midway point in our 46-day short session, this week we saw activity on a number of different issues, and we had a major distraction thrown into the mix. First, on transportation. The governor went into a full court press selling the transportation plan that he unveiled a few weeks ago. He announced support from various groups, and he distributed binders full of charts and graphs on behalf of what he calls Virginia's Road to the Future. He made this material available to every one of the members of the House and Senate. He also sent representatives from the administration out to talk to the members of the House and Senate. My visitor was the Deputy Secretary of Transportation, and I'll tell you what I told him when we met this week. I don't have a lot of argument with the governor's list of projects that would be funded under his transportation package. It includes additional money to extend Metro out to Dulles and funding to rebuild the heavily traveled bridges around the Pentagon in Arlington. In fact, the length of that list points out just how we've failed to come to grips with Virginia's transportation needs for years and years. It's on the other side of the ledger, how we're going to pay for those improvements, that the plan falls short as far as I'm concerned. First, almost a third of the funding in his plan would come from a sales tax on purchases made over the Internet. I think this isn't a bad idea in itself. It's unfair to Main Street merchants that sales in their stores are taxed while the tax on sales of the same merchandise made over the Internet go uncollected. But to put the Internet sales tax into operation would require an act of Congress, and a bill to do this hasn't even been introduced yet. After the inaction and dysfunction that we've seen out of Congress over the past few months and years, depending on them to act just doesn't make sense. Second, the bill would eliminate Virginia's 17.5 cent per gallon gasoline tax and make up for this revenue loss by increasing the sales tax, which you pay every time you go into Walmart or your local drugstore. The idea is that the lower price of gas would make up for the higher price you'd be paying for everything else. But there's no way to guarantee that people up the gasoline distribution chain wouldn't just pocket the difference, leaving consumers paying the same price for gasoline and higher sales taxes on all the other merchandise that they buy. Finally, the plan gets a big chunk of its revenue by tapping into the general fund, the part of the budget that pays for our schools, for health care, and for public safety. Over the past several years, as Virginia and the nation struggled through the Great Recession, we've had to make major cuts to funding for these vital services. Here's one example. We're actually spending less per public school student now than we did in 2008. It's the same story in health care and public safety. So it's the wrong time to put additional pressure on our schools, on health and human services, and on public safety by putting transportation into competition for scarce dollars with those services. As if we're not busy enough with the budget and transportation, another matter popped up this week that could make coming to agreement on those issues much more difficult in the coming weeks. This new and divisive issue was redistricting. You'll recall that in 2011, the House and Senate district lines were redrawn to reflect shifts in population. We do this every 10 years. The new lines resulted in a House of Delegates that was overwhelmingly Republican, 68 Republicans and 32 Democrats, but it resulted in a state Senate that was evenly split at 20 Republicans and 20 Democrats. Well, on Monday, the Senate Republicans took up a bill that made minor technical changes in boundary lines and attached to it a wholesale, complete rewrite of the Senate district lines. The partisan intent was clear. It took a map that was evenly split between the parties and drew lines that overwhelmingly favored the Republicans. Their action was very likely unconstitutional. Our state constitution specifies that redistricting will occur every 10 years. The Washington Post called it a new low for hyperpartisanship, dirty tricks, and the unaccountable arrogance of power. And even Republican Governor McDonnell expressed concern over these tactics. What they did was bad enough, but the way they did it was even worse. The Senate Republicans chose to make this stealth maneuver on Martin Luther King Day, which was also the day of President Obama's inauguration in Washington. They took advantage of the absence of one Democratic state senator, Henry Marsh of Richmond, who is a Virginia civil rights icon and was the first African-American mayor of the capital city. Henry was up at the inauguration on Monday. The Republicans used their temporary one-day 20-19 edge to push through their plan without advance notice or any public input. As Governor McDonnell pointed out, this isn't the way we should be doing business here in the Commonwealth. It's created a great deal of ill will among the members of the House and Senate, and even if this matter is resolved quickly, it will take time to get things back on track and get back to other business. Time is something that we simply don't have a lot of in this 46-day session. I'll keep you updated on these developments, and if you have any questions about this or any other matter that comes before us, please feel free to contact my office at delegatebrink@gmail.com. As always, feel free to visit my website at bobbrink.org, like me on Facebook, or follow me on Twitter @DelBrink. Thank you for watching, and stay on the lookout for my next video update next week. Thank you.